All right, more sprint planning demos. In that last demo, we picked requirements for our sprint, aka the PBIs that the team is thinking about doing. That's the what portion of the sprint planning meeting. What are we going to do? Next, we'll tackle the how. How are we going to do it? And that means breaking those requirements down into tasks. And those tasks will represent the plans for how we're going to make those requirements into done working software. And we'll do that using a feature in GitHub Projects called sub-issues. Let's dive in. Okay, so here we are looking at the contents of the next sprint. Basically the contents of the sprint that we're planning. And on the left side, we see the product backlog items that we've selected for the sprint. Remember, sprint planning basically has two big core essential questions that we're looking to answer. Question 1, what are we going to do? That's represented by the PBIs that we've selected. And big question number 2 is, how are we going to turn these PBI requirements into done working software? So what are we going to do? And how are we going to do it? So we've got the what, and next we're going to start describing the how, and we're going to do this by breaking our requirements into tasks using a feature called sub-issues. To get going with this, we'll come over to the PBI we're going to work on and open the details. Here are the details for the Create a New Blog Post PBI. Let's say that the team has already discussed this requirement a bit and has some ideas for which tasks are going to be required. They're going to start the process of recording those tasks by using the Create Sub-Issue button. Clicking on that button gives us an option to either create a new sub-issue or link an existing issue as a sub-issue. I'm going to focus on creating a new one. This gives us a dialog with the title Create New Sub-Issue in the repository. And I want to point something out that I think is incredibly important. Can't stress this enough. This is actually a big deal. The default options here only creates the issue in the repository, not the project. I'll talk more about the details and implications of this in a second, but let's just say for right now that these options down here at the bottom are going to become important. Anyway, moving on. If you're thinking that this looks pretty darn similar to the regular create issue dialog, you're correct. It's basically the same thing, except for the fact that this dialog will not only create the issue, but it will also create a linkage. Let's give it a title, Design Blog Post Model. And then I'll put in a basic description for this task. Now that I have the basics, there are some key details in the bottom row that I'm going to want to set. The first value I'm going to set is issue type. So far in this series of demos, I've been setting the issue type for product backlog items, aka requirements, setting the issue type to user story. So for this issue that we're creating now, I'm going to pick task. A task is a thing to do. It's a piece of making a requirement real and done. And then I'm going to want to set the project for this issue. So remember that pro tip from a couple seconds back. This is a really important thing to remember because things might get lost or at least a little confusing to find if you forget to set the project. The project that we're working on is Projects Demo December 2024, so I'll select that. So that sets up the projecty attributes for this new issue. The last thing you might be interested in is this checkbox right down here. If you're going to be creating a bunch of sub-issues, a bunch of children off this PBI requirement, you'll want to reuse the attributes you've just set. Checking this box streamlines that process. All right, so this one's ready to go, so I'll click the Create button. And we're back to a blank version of this form, except that since we checked that Create More Sub-Issues checkbox, the attributes we have right here are still set. I'm going to create some more task sub-issues at super fast speed. Okay, that's enough sub-issues. Let's close this dialog and go back to the parent PBI. Now back on the parent PBI, we can see the sub-issues we created right here, and then again also in the history of the item down below. All right, I'll click close and we'll be back at the next sprint view. And behold, the tasks we just created are completely missing from this view. Awesome. All right, and on that bombshell, I'm going to end this demo. In the next part of the demo, I'll show you where those tasks actually went and why they went there. And I'll also show you how to create yet another supporting view to help, well, not lose the tasks as you create them in the first place. Anyway, thanks for watching. Stay tuned.